1. This tale takes place many moons ago during my college years. I was not official tech support, at that time at least, but rather de facto tech support, by the merit of being the only student in my circle who genuinely understood those newfangled computer thingies. I had been that person ever since grade school, for reference. One of my teachers was unusually charismatic. She somehow managed to collect up a circle of students around her who would happily flock to her home when they were not taking actual classes, for various events ranging from off-the-books educational experiences with guest lectures to topless pool parties. And no, the school neither knew about nor approved of these latter activities. So, okay, maybe charismatic doesn't come close to adequately describing her. In addition, she also liked to tell people that she was a witch with actual magic powers. The last detail is, shockingly, actually vaguely pertinent to the story. I was one of the students within her circle of influence, so one day she asked me if I would come over to help her with a problem getting her dial-up internet working again. I asked her what was wrong, and she told me that she got mad at the computer and zapped the modem. To illustrate for me, she did this whole "I'm a witch" thing, with a very convincing dramedy performance, with the hands outstretched and the fingers all pointed at the computer, and the vaguely evil cackle, which she did surprisingly well, and well, you get the idea. I intentioned to never argue with her about her supposed powers, but I did happily agree to see if I could find the problem. I showed up, and it turned out that she used the single most popular dial-up provider in all of America at the time to help her get online. Yes, that one. She then told me that she really just wanted me to talk to tech support for her, since she has no clue what they were talking about when they told her to do stuff. We made one attempt to dial in, unsuccessfully of course, so that I would know what was going on. And then we called up their support line, and I explained the problem to them. This is where we meet the old guy. He was on the other end of the line, and he seemed like a nice elderly gentleman. He listened to what we had to say, and then there was a protracted pause, as he slowly and methodically typed into his computer on the other end. It was pretty clear that he was typing, as I could hear the muffled keystrokes, so I waited patiently. Finally, he came back to us, and in his very prominent southern accent, he started out with, all right. Now you just sit back and listen carefully, because I'm an expert in these matters, and I'll get you all fixed up before long. Now, step 1. At which point he started reading from his screen. That's right, folks. Our much ballyhooed expert was an early iteration of what all too many low-tier tech support technicians end up being coerced into these days. He was a script reader with an internal database of questions and answers which he simply queried. The steps he read from were ultra-basic and clearly pretty universal, but I dutifully followed along. We navigated through various settings dialogues, and at some point we came to a particular setting where he said, "Make sure that this is toggled on," and it wasn't. I read the setting and realized that this was almost guaranteed to be exactly what was causing teacher's issue. So I clicked the save button and quickly backed out of all the rest of the dialog box madness. I then pulled up the login screen, preparing the software for dial-up. But not wanting to be disrespectful to the old guy, I waited patiently for him to finish the rest of his spiel and catch up with me. I then thanked him for his time and expertise, and told him that we would call him back if it didn't work. "Oh, it'll work, don't you worry." Needless to say, it worked just fine, and she was able to get back online. And in celebration, our witch cavorts in her backyard pool in celebration, which is not a pretty sight to see. 2. In my organization, I support all communication application tools, and among other things. You have to understand one thing about me. If it doesn't fall under my support group, I'm not doing it, because you aren't paying me to do anything else outside my job role. Unless you're extremely nice, then maybe I'll go out of my way for you. Today we're going to talk about Zoom. Anyways, the user stated that she had talked to 3 other reps today and they could not figure out what the issue was. That's got to be rough considering it takes an hour just to get through to my support line. So if you had to be transferred, you're already a couple hours into the call. So at this point she's already annoyed, but understandable. I got her to calm down a bit and I told her I'll do what I can and let's focus on the issue at hand. So I get the IP address and remote into her laptop. Right when I got into her laptop, I noticed something odd. The mouse pointer was annoyingly shaking. So I inquire with the user what that was about. She said she doesn't know, but it seems that whenever one of our agents remote to her laptop, it just shakes like that. Whatever, not my issue right now. Clue number 1. Let me check out the Skype settings just to make sure your speakers and microphone are working properly. That's strange. Your Skype is saying your speakers and microphone cannot be found. Clue number 2. Let's go see what's going on with the sound setting in the control panel. That's odd. Your microphone's not listed here. Also, your speaker says remote speaker. Clue number 3. At this point, I'm stumped, unsure why the speaker's saying remote speaker and why the microphone is missing. So I started to ask general questions. Did you update your laptop recently? No. When was the last time this all worked properly? Before I started working remotely. It worked just fine in the office. I only have this issue when I work remotely. Do you use VDI, Virtual Desktop Interface? I don't know what that is. I glance over her profile. Nothing showing that she uses a VDI. I use a docking station. Could that be causing the issue, she said. No, but let's go ahead and remove it from the docking station and see what happens. Nothing changed when the laptop was removed from the docking station. Eventually, she kept saying something about, I logged into my desktop? Several times throughout our conversation. Clue number 4. At first, I'm like, what is she talking about? Everyone needed to log into their desktop to work. Why does she keep saying she logged into her desktop? Then it hit me. I think she's using another type of VDI that is not logged into her profile. I spent about 10 minutes trying very hard to explain to her what a VDI is. The whole time she kept denying that she's not logged into a VDI. After some back and forth, I finally got to her. I was able to get the IP address and remote it into her laptop. Turns out she was using an application called Remote Desktop, and that was why she kept saying I logged into my desktop. To be fair, I did not know team members were still using these applications, considering we have better tech. Explained to her slowly, in great details, that she cannot make Zoom or Skype calls inside the VDI because it will not capture her microphone. If there was a way to fix this, it's still out of my support group. Hardware and application can handle this. Then she asked why the other agent couldn't figure this out. I told her it's because, most likely, no one really knew you were using a VDI. Had I not pressed for more info from you, I would assume it to be a hardware issue. As I was ready to let her go, I just have to know, why are you logging into the remote desktop application? She went on a very long story about how she's been there for so long, and she's been logging into the remote desktop and had stored data files in that environment and needed to get to them. Even then, it makes no sense why she still needed to log into the remote desktop while she was at the office. So she's either restricted to store files on her local hard drive, or she's just making her job harder than it needed to be. As far as I know, a restriction did not exist. Whatever, not my place to tell people how to do their job. 3. This happened several years ago when I sat NOC for a large international company you likely have never heard of. In this company, the NOC was manned by Help Desk Tier 2 agents, who managed tickets and monitored for and reported on outages and assisted changes. Sometimes one agent would be on 5 bridges at the same time. There were several types available. A bridge could be for a change taking place, either with or without our direct participation, or with technicians working on an outage, or with employees impacted by an outage, or with a client, many of whom you have definitely heard of, who had a stake in the part of the business impacted by the outage. Or finally, with vendors who provided a tool or MPS circuits involved in an outage. We had to be multitasking champions. We were assigned by Tier 1 agents who could do basic help desk tasks like password resets, and a much smaller team of Tier 3 agents who would manage the technician outage bridges and reach and document the final root cause analysis for any outages. We were responsible for initial reporting and timely follow-ups of all issues. In our beautiful NOC, we could monitor all the data centers for temperature and power concerns. We would know when AC went out or generators were engaged at any of them. We could also access all of them visually via any security cameras installed. The company had employed a relatively good level of redundancy in their topology. Whenever possible, there would be 2 MPLS circuits in place from different vendors, one held in reserve for an outage on the first, and just waiting for the flip of a switch to be engaged. Some places, like Australia, there would only be one vendor, but still 2 circuits. All major systems had a second server that could be engaged. Like I said, a good level of redundancy. Our 3 biggest data centers with the most important systems in them were 1 in the building we were in, 2 another major building 2,000 miles, 3,200 kilometers away, in another state, 3 our largest location in the Philippines. And that second one mentioned was where the servers for timekeeping and ticket reporting worldwide were kept. Sometimes this site would send a ticket to report their employees could not log in or log out of their shifts. If they could also not access the ticket system to send a ticket, they would call us instead, since it normally meant a break in MPLS connectivity. It would not be unusual to get a number of these calls at once from the same region, since they could all be served by the network. On the day in question, things had been relatively calm. We had been able to focus on closing out a number of less critical tickets and answer a lot of emails. It was a good day. And then it happened. A freak storm 2,000 miles away created the biggest mess I've ever seen at any of my IT jobs. The wind kicked up to nearly tornado levels of intensity, and the rain poured down. We were monitoring this on the Weather Channel. We always kept an eye on weather or political unrest that could impact any of our sites. This storm was serious. Then the first signs of something had gone wrong. First 1 call, then 2, then 10. People couldn't clock in or out, and no one could open a ticket for it. As we tried to create tickets from the calls, we found out we had lost connection to the ticketing system as well. We reached out in vain to the other site, but no one was answering. Meanwhile, Tier 3 had told us to just throw everyone reporting the issues onto a bridge. We were now all hands on deck and still 16 deep in queue. We were answering the calls and asking straight up if it was about the ticketing system or clocking in or out. If a yes to either or both, they were asked to hold and thrown on the bridge. Right in the middle of all this was a major shift change. But those of us from the morning shift stayed over, so we were literally all hands on deck for a few hours. By the time we finally started getting information from the other side, we likely had about 500 people from all over the planet on that bridge. It would seem that a gust of wind had removed a large section of the ceiling and roof over our second largest data center, and the rain was just pouring in. A quick and decisive set of actions by one of our VPs stationed there likely made recovery much easier. He had managed to immediately cut the power to the data center without letting the UPS battery array or generators kick in. This was no small trick, as the system was designed to never let power go down. But he brought it down hard and fast. As soon as he had, the timekeeping and ticketing system were effectively gone. He spent the rest of the limited time available to him before the city made him evaluate the no longer fully intact building, throwing tarps over as many of the servers as he could. While I'm sure that every server in the building was no longer going to remain in service as long as it would have without this event, these quick actions on his part helped save the company tens of millions of dollars and likely enabled a much faster return to business as usual. It would still take about a week before business got back to anywhere near usual. Timekeeping was manual and tickets were by email, only for nearly 5 days. When the ticketing system returned, it had lost about 72 hours worth of data. All those tickets we had to close that day, yeah, we got to do it all again. So if you really want to make your topology truly redundant, maybe don't put both your main server and your failover server for a critical system in the same data center, because it likely won't ever happen again. But then, failovers are for those days when the impossible happens. 4. Years ago, sometime in the last century, I have my own computer consulting company. This event leads to me working exclusively in the manufacturing sector for around 15 years. But this story is from before that, when I perform over the phone and on-site service for a number of businesses. To put it in perspective, these are the days of Lotus 123 and WordPerfect. Microsoft Office is still a few years off. The clinic that provides your analysis for new hires and truck drivers needs some help with the Lotus 123 template. And I am known for getting Lotus to do things that many think it shouldn't be able to do, and so come much recommended by one of my other customers, who has a working relationship with this site. And as it is a decent-sized project, on my 3rd day straight working there, the following happens. I am in final testing of the modifications to their spreadsheet, when a young lady lab assistant approaches hesitantly and asks if I can help her. Being the helpful sort, I say, "Sure, what do you need?" Young lady lab assistant says, "Please follow me." So I follow her, and she takes me to a testing area and shows me a sample container full of urine. If you look here on the side of the container, this temperature gauge shows that this sample was returned to us at room temperature. It's a cold sample. If it were a naturally produced one, it would be at least 97 Fahrenheit. That's 36 degrees centigrade in real temperature. It's the 3rd cold sample this guy has returned today. Our protocols require us to actually watch him produce the next sample. But we have no guys in the building today except you. I know it's not your job, but could we please have you watch him produce a sample for us? I'm speechless. This is way outside of anything that could be construed as my area of either expertise or interest. The closest I get to this is admiring the technology that lets the container tell you the temperature of the sample. But I also feel for these 3 young ladies working as lab assistants that day. I suspect this particular company doesn't pay nearly well enough for them to be closeted in a restroom with a rough and rugged trucker who clearly has something to hide, and whose job likely depends on him keeping it hid. But no matter how you slice it, or what I answer, it's awkward as hell. Please? With much trepidation, I gallantly agree to help. So I find myself in a single-user restroom with a short, plump, fat, cranky trucker in his mid-50s with an unkempt beard and unruly hair. At least he still has a fair amount of it. He is wearing overalls and is not at all pleasant with me. He clearly has something to hide.
"So this how you get off? Watch another man pee?"
Nope, I really do not. But Jeff forced them to have to watch the sample being produced, so here we are.
Here we are.
He whips out his... well, you know what he has to whip out about now. Let's leave it unsaid. Penis. There, much better sang. He then starts waving it back and forth quickly. Maybe he was a conductor in a previous life.
"Yeah, I may just get some of it on you."
I'm appalled at the threat. If you do, I will have you arrested for assault, and I will press charges of both a criminal and civil nature. I will also declare this sample to be tainted, and they will report back to your company that you were not cooperative, and you will lose your job. I'd think hard about that decision if I were you. I wasn't certain I could actually do that last part, but it sounded good. And with what the dude is threatening to do to me, you'd say whatever you had to make it stop. He tries 3 more attempts to embarrass or intimidate me, but we will keep this safe for work, so say no more about it. I'm done with it. I'm about to leave and tell them that you don't want to keep your job, or can we get this over with?
Okay, but seriously, I can't give them this sample and keep my job.
No kidding. Otherwise, you would not have brought enough clean urine to return 3 cold samples. That's not my problem.
Yeah, but seriously, can I pay you $20 to fill this little container for me?
You've got to be kidding me. What makes you think my urine is clean? It was, but how would he know that? Get it done, or we're done here. Checkmate. With no joy or playfulness left, I watch him fill the container. After he zips up and washes up, thank God, I witness him return to the lab assistant. She is satisfied that it is the right temperature. I never see him again and do not care what his fate is afterwards. I complete my testing of the spreadsheet in record time and submit my bill for service. I add $50 for the special assistance provided. After I receive my pay, I never visit that company again as a technician. I mean, seriously, would you? 5. Bloatware is bad, kiddos. A couple of years ago, I was still working at an MSP supporting multiple different companies. Our biggest client at the time was a pharmaceutical analysis company. Part of some users' hobs was to go to various hospitals or pharmaceutical sites and monitor trials and tests. The ticket says, "Hi team, I would like to replace my machine, laptop, as it's not working on all sites. Please see the link below for the machine we know works on all sites." What the hell, 16GB octa-core Lenovo machine? This guy wants this for his private use to load games or something. And why are there no tickets for machine failure for us to troubleshoot? I call the user. "Hi. I see you're having some trouble with your machine. What seems to be the problem?" "It doesn't work on some sites, but in those sites they all use Lenovo machines, and they have no problems. I want a new machine, and I have approval from my region manager to request the same machines for everyone in the field." 2 to 10 field agents for every county in the EU. This also doesn't include Africa or the US. Okay, well, first, that will need to go to the head office for approval. Secondly, we need to look at the trouble machine to see what's wrong, as we might be able to fix it. "No, I don't want to waste time on that. I will contact HQ and get the approval." They hang up. Crap, ITM is going to have a field day with this rubbish. I spoke to ITM, and they agreed that the request is ridiculous. Troubleshoot the issue, and they can get a standard replacement if needed. "I've been on hold. You must look at my machine. I'm on site, and it's not working." What is it doing? Not connecting? Application freeze? BSOD? "BSOD on login." Blue screen of death. "And this only happens on certain sites." "Yes, but not always the same site. It works from home, and it works on site, and I use my mobile hotspot." Okay, it sounds like a network issue. Never seen its like. Ask senior techs, and they also never heard of this intermittent issue before. "Can you restart the machine, and I will connect before you log in?" "Fine." They restart the machine. I load up the remote software and connect. "Okay, log in for me?" "It's going to crash." He logs in. Immediate loss of connection when he hits enter. "Okay, I assume it's crashed. Can you connect via your phone so I can have a look?" "That's going to cost me a lot for data." "It's a company-issued phone. I will notify accounts and the company will cover it." Connect to the machine and find the error. Do some Googling, and turns out it's a driver failure. Reload new drivers and test again. "It's logging in now." Okay, so let's see what happens. 5 minutes, it runs fine. Connects to the FTP drive, crashes. Check logs again, same error. No new drivers. User goes on leave for a couple of days, so I spent some time doing research in this issue, but find squat. User comes back from holiday. Okay, so we need this machine to come in so we can do more testing on it. We're going to issue you with a new machine for now. "So I'm getting my Lenovo?" "No, you're just getting a newer model of the same machine." "Unacceptable! I will call head office." ITM shut down his request before it even landed, as I was on the phone with her for something else. New machine gets to the site. Blue screen of death. So now I'm completely confused. How can 1 meg of machine work everywhere but in one location? Google all the error messages, driver issues, and weird BSOD messages, and find nothing again. I go to the HP website to read all the documentation on their network cards when a message pops up. HP Velocity app is being pulled indefinitely as it causes conflicts with certain network equipment. No mention of this was found on any forums or help articles. Okay, let's see what happens if we remove velocity from the machines. Perfect working order. Users still try to angle for a new machine because HP machines are obviously faulty if their own app causes problems. But ITM shut that down even harder once we rolled out a script to remove velocity from all machines. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Terrific Tales of Technology, episode 27. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do like and share it around. And if you want to leave a comment, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, let's see. Today is Tuesday, isn't it? Yes. I thought yesterday was Tuesday. Skipped a whole day, then got it back. Not sure how I feel about that. Anyway, today's question. As we're on a technology-themed video, how do you feel about AR glasses? Now, when they become available, they are available already, but when they become more financially viable, a lot more useful, do you think that's something you would use? As in, you could be walking around, it could overlay things in the world. You might see targeted advertising on windows and such. You'd be able to see holograms in real life. Imagine you could have George Michael singing to you in your living room, or possibly someone you enjoy. Let me know what you think below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.